I'm here today to do a recommendations video. When I did my nonfiction November recommendations, I had a really hard time choosing my selections for because I read a wide variety of nonfiction, and so I thought I would kind of make a series of videos. And I probably won't do it all in November because I feel like November's halfway done, and I just haven't got to making my videos, and so I thought I would kind of like stretch it out throughout the next couple of months. And so for the first one, I thought I would focus on nature books slash animal books as well. And so the first one I want to recommend is How to Be a Good Creature by Cy Montgomery. And I also recommend any of her books. I mean, all of them are pretty good. I've read almost all of her books. I think there's like just one or two that I haven't read. And in this one, I thought I would recommend this one to start with because it's one of her smaller books and it's illustrated. And so each chapter is pretty small, and it focuses on each of these animals. And the picture here, she has squirrels and pigs and dogs, octopuses, of course, because she's known for her octopus book. And yeah, so I don't know if you can see that without the glare. You can see some animals that she's focusing on. And so yeah, it's a pretty short book. It's 208 pages, but like I said, a lot of it's illustrations, and it's pretty big font. And so yeah, you can fly through it pretty quickly if you want to like kind of get an introduction to nature writing in a way. Then this would be a good place to start, as well as any of her other books. I would also recommend them. And another one that I can't not recommend is Rachel Carson. But instead of recommending A Silent Spring, which I know is her most known work, the book I first read by her was The Sea Around Us. And I read this before Silent Spring, and I really enjoyed this one. This focuses on like the history of the ocean from the very beginning, like what creatures were in the ocean and how the ocean was formed all the way up into her present day. And this was published in 1951, so up until 1951. So she also talks about yeah, what was like, so all the pollutants. Oh, hope you can see this. It's really bright. Let me try turning it down again, like I always do for these videos. Let's see. Yeah, okay, that's better. Yeah, and so like all the pollutants and everything that was just like dumped into the ocean, and it wasn't until Silent Spring came out that it became more known. Besides like just the biologists or people who were working in the marine life, knew basically the ocean was used as a trash can. And it kind of still is today, but yeah, she's really good at bringing awareness to all the bad things that were happening. And so yeah, but this one it was really was such a good book to read. You could really feel her love of the marine life, and she dived with several different people in different regions of the coast. And so yeah, this was a really good book, and one I thought I would recommend that not everyone would have read by Rachel Carson. Then I have sticking with the ocean theme. Here my dog goes again. Luckily he's passing through the sun. Before he was just like hanging out right in the middle of the frame here. This one is Spying on Whales: The Past, Present, and Future of Earth's Most Awesome Creatures by Nick Payson. And here's this one, and he is a okay. I can't remember who he worked with because it's been a while since I read this, but he worked with some significant biologists in his field. And again, he talks about like the history of whales and all the different species of whales. And yeah, this made me like really want, speaking of like the sea around us, it really makes us all the pollutants to go away, so that the whales can, because their songs, it talks about how their songs, how it can travel, long distances, but because of all of the shipping that is used nowadays, that their songs aren't going as far, and so they aren't able to communicate with people, their people, from far away. And so yeah, but yeah, this one, if you're interested in whales, then yeah, this one was very, very good. Then I have an author, like same with Cy Montgomery, that I would recommend any of their work, and this is Bernd Heinrich, The Ingenuity of Animal Survival, Winter World. I thought I would choose this one since winter is coming up soon, and it's not already here. I think it's like high of like 40 today, and so it feels like winter here. But this one is all about the different animals and that are able to survive in the winter. and he lives in Maine. And so he focuses a lot on Maine, but he also talks about, people, I keep saying people, but yeah, animals are people. Animals that are like way up in like, Canada and in the tundra, and what they have to do to survive. They're eating, lots of nutrient-rich food, and it also talks about like what, like little like birds, little fluff balls, like how are they able to survive and keep warm? Because I can barely keep warm, with jackets and stuff right now when it's 40 degrees outside. What do you do when you're negative something and this tiny little thing? And so he talks about kind of like the biology of animals, and not just the little creatures, but big creatures as well. And anything by Bernhard Heinrich. He's really known for Mind of a Raven, and that one you can't go wrong as well. But I thought, again, kind of with with Rachel Carson, mentioning a book that isn't as well known, but again, is still well worth the read. And he also has done, I read another one, like Winter World. He also has written a book, Summer World. She's talking about, animals and how they cope with the summer. And so that's a different season, different animals that he's working with. And then I have The Quarry Fox and Other Critters of the Wild Catskills by Leslie T. Sharp. And I just adored this book. The author just, I don't know, like when she's telling her stories, and it makes me feel like I'm sitting around a fire with her in the Catskills. I've never been there, but this book made me really want to go visit. This is like talking about her journey of, I think she was living in New York City, but she's moved to the Catskills, and she's traveled all over the place, but she really felt at home there, so she made her home there. And it's all about her journey, just hiking through the woods, and the different animals she encounters, foxes and rabbits and deers, and it's just like little snippets of her day-to-day life throughout the different seasons. And talks about also her domestic animals that she has, her cats, and how they cope with the winters of the Catskills. And so this is just a nice like cozy book that also includes lots of nature. I then have The Death and Life of the Great Lakes by Dan Egan. I've never been to the Great Lakes, another region I want to go to, but this is all about the history of the Great Lakes and how they were formed, and how they've been used throughout history, and in the state that they are in now with the death of the Great Lakes, and how especially the smaller lakes like Lake Erie, all the pollutants and all the different fauna and like different things that we brought in via ships, like how different things will like stick on to ships, and when they come through the Great Lakes, how they're dropped off and they're not native species, and so they're a huge detriment to the area. And then of course all the cities that are around the Great Lakes and how they affect the water. But then it also focuses on how the people, how they are affected by what they're doing with the water, and how that's affecting their water quality and so on. So it isn't all negative. I mean, it's also talking focuses on the life of the Great Lakes, but then also has like a more negative aspect nowadays with what's going on. But this was a very informative read, and I didn't know much about them previously. And then switching to the Gulf, I have The Gulf, The Making of an American Sea by Jack E. Davis. And this is along the same lines as the Great Lakes book, where he talks about, I think this also won a prize, like, I think it was nominated for Pulitzer Prize or something like that. I know it's like won like an elite award. I don't know which, because I don't really follow prizes. But and this one, it's kind of like along the lines with the Great Lakes, how he talks about the history of the Gulf and how it was formed, and just the abundance of life that it had for a long time. Like it was known for like huge populations of fish, because the Gulf is more shallow, and so it allowed like fishers to just actually see see the fish, and just the biome that it had was provided a nutrient rich life for the fish and the marine life that was that resided there. And so it follows the history, and then of course talks about nowadays, and like not just like the animals that are in the ocean, but also the animals that are in the marsh and along the sandy coasts and so on. And so this was another really good kind of like location based book, like the Great Lakes, and then so I have the Gulf. I think are in the same year, and again, this is an area I've never been to before, but it made me want to go there, and I feel like I learned a lot about it, before making a trip there. I kind of a handle on the history of the area. That's not just the cities, but it's about the nature, and all the other other animals that live there besides humans. And then I have, going from the Great Lakes and the coast, I have one that's focusing on Wyoming and Colorado, and this is American Wolf: A True Story of Survival and Obsession in the West by Nate Blakesley. And this is all about the reintroduction of wolves in the Yellowstone National Park. And this follows a couple of specific wolves in particular. I can't remember the numbers. 06. The enthralling story of the rise and reign of 06. And so yeah, they were tracking these different wolves, and so they were able to, because when they first were reintroducing them, a couple of them had failed to thrive, and so it finally got to 06's group, and she was able to to live longer, and so yeah, it follows their journey with reproducing and creating their own families. It's not just like us dropping off wolves pulled from Canada. They're able to actually repopulate the area. But the story isn't all said and done now, because of course there's hunting with, and not just hunting, but federal areas where there's cow farms and so on, the agriculture, where they want to keep wolves away, and so they were allowed to be shot. Or not allowed to be, but sometimes it just happened, and it was kind of excused away because wolves are kind of the enemies of cows and sheep and what have you, and but then also not just with that, but it talks about how they're part of the ecosystem, and they're part of the circle of life, and so it's really important to have wolves there to keep down the population of elk and so on. It's also how when you reduce the elk population, how trees and other things were able to actually regrow, because the elk were just stripping away a lot of the trees and killing them off. And so having wolves there, isn't always a bad thing, because the elk hunters are like, hey, they're killing my elk that I'm there to shoot. But yeah, the wolves are a good thing to have. And so yeah, this was another very informative read for me. Let's see, and then I picked 10 books, and so the last two are creatures that we experience in our everyday life. At least I do. So the first one is The Lion in the Living Room: How House Cats Tamed Us and Took Over the World, by Abigail Tucker. And this cover is just so cute. It's a little lion, and and you're sitting on a couch. And this really made me rethink my relationship with cats. She goes in depth on, again, the history of cats, and not just the history of cats, but in particular our relationship with cats. You talk about Egypt, and how we had mummified cats, and so they were worshipped in a way, and it talks mainly on modern times, and kind of how media can have a weird relationship with cats. I know there's I'm not really good with following these mainstream things, but there's the grumpy cat, and there's all the cats that look weird but are used as little I don't know what you call these things, little pictures with little words that are used different sayings on the picture that you're constantly seeing, whatever that is called. Yeah, but so he talks about why that is, and why these cats look different, and how a lot of them have disorders or are misfigured, and how that's kind of, I don't know, praised in a way with media, with the social media. And so he talks about that, but then also talks about the disorder that I can't remember the name of it, that cats can give humans, and that part in particular was fascinating, because I know about how if you're pregnant, you don't want to change the litter box for cats, because that can harm the baby. And I can't remember the disorder, what it's called, but so it goes into depth on that. But it doesn't just affect pregnant women and their unborn children, but it also can affect anyone. And so I had known about that, but I didn't know the statistics behind it, and how if you are infected with this virus or bacteria, how you are more inclined to at-risk behavior. I guess it kind of like dampens like your I don't know, your like self self-preservation in a way. And so she like a bunch of studies have shown that people who are infected with this, how they do these abnormal behaviors. And so yeah, that was very interesting. And it also talks about how cats like their meows when they meow to a human compared to when they meow to a different animal, how it's specifically designed to like kind of like mimic, kind of trigger in us like a baby's cry. And so that was fascinating. Like there's a whole bunch of like scientific studies in here, and that was just it was just very illuminating in a way that yeah, my Winnie cat, she's something else. And then to finish up with these 10 books on nature and kind of biology in a way, I had to finish with a dog book because I had a cat book. I need to talk about a book that includes dogs, and this is Merle's Door, Lessons from a Free-Thinking Dog by Ted Karasoti, something like that. And this is about a man who is out hiking and camping in the mountains, and he comes across a wild dog, and he names him Merle. But he's not a completely wild dog, because he has been around people, and but they have an interesting relationship. He decides to bring the dog home, and when he brings the dog home, it's still, the dog doesn't want to just stay inside. He gets into all sorts of trouble, like eating a whole bag of dog food, and that's not the greatest thing. And so like he has a hard time housebreaking the dog. So he decides to like leave the like a doggy door open at all times, so the dog can come and go as he pleases. And so yeah, it's like this the story of like what the dog can I don't know, like the interaction with an animal that is still wild in a way, even though he has this bond with the dog. And so luckily the author lives in a place where he's able to do this, because like me, I don't want to do it, but also I live in an apartment, people a lot of people live in like busy areas, and so you can't just let your dog roam around the streets and then come back and be okay. But he happens to live in like a very rural area with lots of mountains to go hiking on, and people that are okay with him having a dog roaming around, because in his area there's a lot of dogs that aren't fenced off or chained or anything like that, and so it's like kind of like a normal lifestyle in a way. And so it's just a man and his dog is a relationship, and an interesting relationship in a way, with it being able to roam around, and like how the neighbors, there's like a cute bit in here where the dog starts getting fat because all the neighbors keep feeding him, and so he eventually like puts on the collar like "Do not feed dog" or something like that. And there's this one lady that like, I can't stop feeding him. He's so cute. And so yeah, it was just a nice story, about a man and this dog. And so yeah, these are 10 books that I would recommend that are focused on nature in a way, in all of its different forms. So yeah, I hope this maybe will prompt you to read some of them. So yeah, thanks. I'll see you soon.